Hello and welcome. I am Alan, and today we are doing our week in review, which will cover the dates of May the 18th through the 24th, Saturday through Friday. So if we're going to do that, let's get started. We'll start always, as is common, with sports. And of course, the actual NFL and college basketball and football are done for the seasons. So let's proceed to the next sport, the NBA. While that's pulling up the playoffs here, how do y'all like the new background? This is what I'm thinking about trying it as. So let me know. We'll see how it kind of works here. Blah, blah, blah. News inside the playoffs. I don't want all this. I just want the actual brackets, people. Come on now. There we go. I don't care. I have the ad blockers on for a reason, people. My apologies. Okay. Let's see here. It looks like in the West, the Golden State Warriors swept the Portland Trail Blazers 4-0. So the Golden State Warriors make it to the NBA Finals as the West's representatives. Meanwhile, in the East, the Toronto Raptors lead the Milwaukee Bucks 3-2. So the Warriors are going to have a good rest before they face Raptors or Bucks. So right now, I have to put it in Golden State's favor. I really do. So Toronto and Milwaukee are still duking it out. And as I said, Toronto still leads 3-2, and the winner will go to the finals to face the Golden State Warriors. But that is the NFL playoffs as they currently sit. Let's look at the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and see how things are kind of working out here. Okay. In the West, the St. Louis Blues beat the San Jose Sharks 4-2 to go to the Stanley Cup, while the Boston Bruins swept the Carolina Hurricanes 4-0. So in the Stanley Cup Finals, it will be the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. Kind of a tough pick. Kind of interested who might win that now. I'm not sure who. It's a little beyond what I know in hockey. It's been a while since I've really watched any of it, so with that done, let's take a look at Major League Baseball, which is in full swing, and let's look at the actual standings. In the American League East, the Yankees finally overtook my Rays. As I said, the poor Rays always end up with the worst luck. They have to deal with Toronto, or always have to deal with Boston or the Yankees. A lot of the times, both. They're usually fighting for that card. And so, poor Tampa. I feel your pain, Toronto and Baltimore. Tampa has to deal with it too. That division is too overpowered with both the Yankees and Boston. But anyway, the Yankees lead the AL East with a record of 32-17. Tampa Bay is right behind, 2.5 games behind, as a matter of fact, with a record of 29-19. Followed up by Boston, then Toronto, and Baltimore. Let's look at the American League Central. Leading the division are the Minnesota Twins with a record of 34-16. They're followed 8 games behind by the Cleveland Indians, who have a record of 26-24. The rest of the division follows with the Chicago White Sox, the Detroit Tigers, and the Kansas City Royals, in that order. With that, let's look at the American League West. At the front of the division, we have the Houston Astros with a record of 34-18. Behind them are the Texas Rangers, who are 7 games behind with a record of 25-23. Although the Oakland Athletics are only a half game out further with a record of 26-25. And the rest of the division is rounded out by the Los Angeles Angels and then the Seattle Mariners. So let's look at the National League. In the NL East, the leader is the Philadelphia Phillies with a record of 30-21. They're followed 1.5 games behind by the Atlanta Braves at 29-23. The rest of the division is the New York Mets, the Washington Nationals, and the Miami Marlins. Let's look at the NL Central. Atop the division is the Chicago Cubs with a record of 29-20. They're followed 1.5 behind by the Milwaukee Brewers, who have a record of 29-23. And then the rest of the division is Pittsburgh Pirates, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cincinnati Reds, in that order. And now let's look at the National League West. Atop the division is the Los Angeles Dodgers with a record of 33-18. Behind them are the San Diego Padres. They're behind by 6 games. And their record is 27-24. And the rest of the division rounds out with the Arizona Diamondbacks, then the Colorado Rockies, and the San Francisco Giants in last place. And that's currently how Major League Baseball looks. With that done, let's take a look at Premier League. Match day 38 of 38. So it looks like they're finished. Because the last scores, or the last matches, seem to have been on the 12th of May. Let's see how it turned out here. Manchester City still on top, followed by Liverpool, then Chelsea, then Tottenham, then Arsenal, then Manchester United. They have a new club lit up here, Wolverhampton. Interesting. But that looks like the end for the Premier League standings, with Manchester City on top. Let me know if I'm missing anything else when it comes to Premier League, because it's not really my thing. I'm not too familiar with Premier League football. So, with sports done, let's look at science. And pull this up. I dropped my lid to my drink there. But anyway, would you stop doing that? All right. A macrophage's contribution to the fight against parasitic worms. Next Gen Voices, preventing burnout. Fossils in Burmese amber offer an exquisite view of dinosaur times and an ethical minefield. Ortolan hunting in France is unsustainable. Ortolan, I'm unsure there. Immediate treatment following HIV diagnosis preserves antiviral T cells in patients. Well, so as long as you hit it like that, you can preserve your antiviral T cells. If you find out, right away. Immediate production of an amino acid drives harmful fibrosis in the lungs. And these tiny microbes are munching away at plastic waste in the ocean. It's good to know there's something fighting the plastic threat. Let's see if there's anything else here. Emory ousts 2 Chinese-American researchers after investigation into foreign ties. Emory University in Atlanta. Okay, I was making sure. Because around here, the only Emory is Emory and Henry. But it's the one in Atlanta. And let's check here for more science news. Do. Shy fish no bigger than a pinky provide much of the food in coral reefs. Well, mathematicians report possible progress on proving the Riemann hypothesis. Being bilingual is great, but it may not boost some brain functions. Still good to know multiple languages. Who was it? Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, spoke 5. Let's see. Faulty cellular antenna may cause a heart valve disorder. Emissions of a banned ozone-destroying chemical have been traced to China. Tiger sharks feast on migratory birds that fall out of the sky. Measles erases the immune system's memory. Well, so it's even more important. Get your children vaccinated. Yep, the kilogram just got a revamp. A unit of time might be next. Wow, that's interesting. And that looks like everything for this week as far as science. Well, let's check one more thing. I've been wanting to add this into the list. One of the channels I have bookmarked on my YouTube is TED, Technology, Education, and Design. So let's take a look and see if it has anything this week that may have been interesting to the world of science. TED. Video list. Can we cure genetic diseases by rewriting DNA? Huh, it's interesting. How to recover from activism burnout. Those seem to be the two big science-y, interesting stories on the TED YouTube site. So now let's look at this day in history. I wasn't even singing and that sounded horrible. Let's see. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go May the 18th and see what happened throughout history on May the 18th. I usually try to stay away from birth dates, so that's not going to be that important. Even though the person may have been important, best to stay away from birth dates as important historical dates. May the 18th, 1896, the Supreme Court rules in Plessy versus Ferguson. In a major victory for supporters of racial segregation, the United States Supreme Court rules 7-1 that a Louisiana law providing for equal but separate accommodations for the white and colored races on its railroad cars is constitutional. Later it would be overturned, but that's at the end of the 1800s. You'll often see it mentioned when you talk about the Supreme Court. That's one of the cases you'll often hear a lot of. Plessy versus Ferguson. May the 18th, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupts. Let's see. What else have we got going on here? In the world of sports, May the 18th, 2004, Randy Johnson throws a perfect game at the age of 40. Let's see. What else? What else have we got going on? May the 18th, 1989, 1 million protesters take to the streets in Beijing. I think that's one of the protests that brought about the Tiananmen Square, if I'm remembering. I may be wrong on that, though. A crowd of protesters, estimated to number more than 1 million, marches through the streets of Beijing, calling for a more democratic political system. A few weeks later, though, the Chinese government moves to crush the protests. But, anyway, let's look at May the 19th. It's a-taking its time, and there we go. May the 19th. Well, the last one was birth, this one was death. We'll not talk about it either. There's more to history than just birth and death. There's important events that we must keep track of. What in the world is going on here? I said go down, you stupid scroll bar. May the 19th, 2016, Egypt Air Flight 804 disappears over the Mediterranean Sea. It took a month to find the wreckage. May the 19th, 1536, Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, is executed. During his little spree of executing wives because they could not produce heirs. Well, male heirs. May the 19th, 1588, the Spanish Armada sets sail to secure the English Channel. But as we know, a storm wipes out part of the biggest portion of that armada, which was huge, but after the storm got a hold of it, it mangled it, giving England a chance. Let's see, what else is going on? May the 19th, 1864, President Lincoln proposes equal treatment of soldiers' dependents. President Abraham Lincoln writes to anti-slavery congressional leader Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts on this day in 1864, proposing that widows and children of soldiers should be given equal treatment regardless of race. Let's see. May the 19th, 1964, Soviets ratify a treaty banning nuclear weapons from outer space. Let's see. That's all on the 19th. So that brings us to May the 20th. Come on now, computer. Work with me. Work with me. May the 20th, 1873, Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis receive a patent for blue jeans. May the 20th, 1996, the Supreme Court defends rights of gays and lesbians in the case Romer versus Evans. Let's see. May the 20th, 1927, Charles Lindbergh takes off across the Atlantic Ocean in the spirit of St. Louis. May the 20th, 1498, Vasco da Gama reaches India. Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama becomes the first European to reach India via the Atlantic Ocean. When he arrives at Calicut on the Malabar coast, da Gama sailed from Lisbon, Portugal in July 1497, rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and anchored at Malindi on the east coast. Let's see. May the 20th, 1862, the Homestead Act. In a milestone in the settlement of the American West, President Abraham Lincoln signs into law the Homestead Act, a program designed to grant public land to small farmers at low cost. Let's see. What else? What else? Mm, do, 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 do. May the 20th, 2005, convicted pedophile Mary Kay Letourneau marries a former victim. Her 43 and him 22. Quit trying to post recommendations to me. Alright. The 21st of May. The 21st of May, 1881, the American Red Cross is founded. Would you? No, don't recommend crap to me. I hate it. It keeps not wanting to work the way it should. Interesting. May the 21st, 1927, Charles Lindbergh completes the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight from New York to Paris, while also on May the 21st, 1932, Amelia Earhart becomes the first woman to make a solo non-stop transatlantic flight. So 5 years later after Lindbergh, on the same date. Interesting. May the 21st, 1942, thousands of Jews die in Nazi gas chambers. And the IG Farben sets up factory just outside of Auschwitz. Two years earlier, on May the 21st, Nazis kill unfit people in East Prussia. Let's see. May the 21st, 1960, huge earthquake hits Chile. It was a magnitude of 7.6 and would kill 5,000 people and leave another 2 million homeless. May the 21st, 1992, the Long Island Lolita is arrested. Amy Fisher, the so-called Long Island Lolita, is arrested for shooting Mary Jo Buttafuoco on the front porch of her Massapequa, New York home. Fisher, only 17 at the time of the shooting, was having an affair with 38-year-old Joey Buttafuoco, Mary Jo's husband. May the 21st, 1924, murderers Leopold and Loeb gain national attention. "14-year-old Bobby Franks is abducted from Chicago, Illinois street and killed in what later proves to be one of the most fascinating murders in American history. The killers, Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb, were extremely wealthy and intelligent teenagers who committed the act. And May the 21st, 1988, Gorbachev consolidates power. All right, let's go back up here and go to May the 22nd. So there was quite a bit that happened on the 21st. Come on now, computer, work with me. May the 22nd, 2017, Manchester Arena bombed during Ariana Grande concert. May the 22nd, 1455, the War of the Roses begins. In the opening battle of England's War of the Roses, the Yorkists defeat King Henry VI Lancastrian forces at St. Alban, 20 miles northwest of London. Many Lancastrian nobles perished, including Edmund Beaufort, a Duke of Somerset, and the king was forced to submit. And I believe ever since it's been those two houses that have kind of ruled England, the Lancasters and the Yorks. May the 22nd, 1990, South Yemen and North Yemen are unified as the Republic of Yemen. Excuse me. May the 22nd, 1939, the Pact of Steel is signed. The Axis is formed. Which, of course, in World War II, as we know, is Germany, Italy, and Japan. The Axis powers. They saw themselves as the Pact of Steel, but otherwise they were known as the Axis of Evil. Excuse me. Let's see. May the 22nd, 1843, 1,000 pioneers head west on the Oregon Trail from Elm Grove, Missouri to Oregon Territory. Let's see, what else? What else? What else? That seems to be pretty much all in May the 22nd. Let's look at May the 23rd. Okay. It's a taking its time. May the 23rd, 1934. Police kill the famous outlaw couple Bonnie and Clyde. Let's see. Move on down. What else happened on May the 23rd? May the 23rd, 2015. Ireland legalizes same-sex marriage. May the 23rd, 1960. High-ranking Nazi official Adolf Eichmann is captured. Let's see. May the 23rd, 1911. The New York Public Library is dedicated. Let's see. In sports, May the 23rd, 1941, Joe Louis beats Buddy Bear to retain his heavyweight title. May the 23rd, 1979, Tom Petty defies his record label and files for bankruptcy. That seems to be pretty much it for May the 23rd. Quit giving me suggestions. And May the 24th. All right. Well, May the 24th, 1883, the Brooklyn Bridge opens. May the 24th, 1844, Samuel Morse demonstrates the telegraph with the message, "What hath God wrought?" And of course, we know Samuel Morse as the man whose name is attached to Morse code. May the 24th, 1943, Auschwitz gets a new doctor, the Angel of Death, Joseph Mengele. Let's see. May the 24th, 1964, Goldwater suggests using atomic weapons. Senator Barry Goldwater, the Republican of Arizona, running for the Republican Party nomination in the upcoming presidential election, gives an interview in which he discusses the use of low-yield atomic bombs in North Vietnam to defoliate forests and destroy bridges, roads, and railroad lines. Needless to say, Goldwater didn't win the nomination. Let's see. Bit of moment of humanity On May the 24th, 1797, Thomas Jefferson inquires about a former flame. On this day in 1797, future President Thomas Jefferson writes to his friend Angelica Church, inquiring casually about their mutual friend Maria Causeway, a woman who had once captured his heart and inspired a romantically themed essay. So quite a moment of just humanity there, beyond the presidency. Let's see. May the 24th, 1775, John Hancock becomes President of Congress, which of course is before the current American setup. And of course, it's presidency of the Continental Congress. Because at this point, America had, as of yet, not sent in the Declaration of Independence to declare independence from Britain. And that is the history of those dates. Let's go ahead to the next part. My top 10 idiots of the week for May the 18th through May the 24th. In no particular order, we have Donald Trump for being the moron he constantly seems to be. Even though for some reason he's supposed to lead this nation. Next, we have Beto O'Rourke for believing a soft campaign relaunch will help his presidential run and proclaiming we have no time for Medicare for all. You know what? I agree we don't have time for Medicare for all. We should go straight to a system of single payer, like Canada, like Great Britain, like the Scandinavian nations of Norway and Denmark, Sweden. It's like, why do we continue to let these insurance companies set the rates for us? So yeah, I agree we don't have time for Medicare for all. We need to just go straight single payer. Screw the insurance companies. Next, I have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I love you, girl. You have been doing good, but on this, you pushed Mike Levin's zero emissions bill, which may end up being an oil and gas Trojan bill, instead of pushing the already established OFF Act put forward by Tulsi Gabbard. So I gotta put you on the list for that, girl. Next, we have the FDA for taking it easy on generic drug makers even after inspections raised concerns. Next on the list, Simone Sanders for defending Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill. I know technically she works for him, but that thing's not defendable. The only thing you can give it defense for is the only reason Bernie voted for it, is to help put through the violence against, the Violence Against Women Act, where it's trying to cut down on, help fight against violence against women. That's the only thing that was good about it. Next, we have Brett Stevens. And we have him on here for writing an article praising Joe Biden for trashing millennials. Hey, Stevens, moron. Millennials are now the biggest voting bloc. Biden, on the other hand, is a monster. He's a monster. He's not even one of the good ones, like Herman Monster or Grandpa Monster. He's just a monster. So, Stevens, shut your mouth. Next, we have Jim Baker for selling a $45 coin to his followers to protect Trump. Televangelists are just scam artists, essentially. Next, we have Ben Carson for not understanding REO, real estate owned, and being the HUD secretary, Housing and Urban Development, it's something he should know, and instead calling them Oreos. Really, Ben? Next, we have a Jeep pie for allowing Sprint and T-Mobile to merge, shrinking any real competition in their markets. He's been one of the worst FCC chairmen, I swear. If not the worst. And we have Betsy DeVos for continuing her assault on public schools and college students. That woman is also a monster. And that brings us to the news of the week. Saturday, we have on the Philip DeFranco show a change in how some in the scientific community are starting to give UFOs and aliens some attention, looking at Roswell, the Betty and Barney Hill case, modern pop culture, and a Harvard paper on the asteroid Oumuamua. And it's causing a bit of clash in the scientific community. On Secular Talk, new Mexican president AMLO wants to decriminalize drugs and wants the U.S. to do the same. I agree with him. And it makes sense. I mean, takes the fortunes away from drug cartels. It turns money from drug enforcement to treatment. I mean, we've seen it work before. In Scandinavia, it'll work here. Also on Secular Talk, further proof of climate change as we see a record high of 84 near the Arctic Ocean towards the top of the world. That ocean at the top. Yeah. There was a record high of 84 near the Arctic Ocean. 84. Up north. You're going to tell me climate change doesn't fucking exist. Morons. And Democracy Now! An Alabama doctor explains how the anti-abortion law is not the best for women and women's health. On Sunday, also on the Philip DeFranco show, a look at how Flint still has water pipe problems and how lead in water is affecting schools, not just in Flint, but throughout the country. On Tim Black TV, Tulsi Gabbard smeared by neoliberal Russian conspiracists over $1,000 donation. WCYB from Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia, which Bristol's right on the border if you want to know how it includes both states. So, the Kingsport Police Department find a body in the Houston River. From WTOP in Washington, D.C., Tyrone Bailey died in his prison cell despite begging for help for weeks because of stomach pains and of missed doctor appointments, for whom he was seeing because of his lung cancer. From Democracy Now!, how states have effectively banned abortion through the lack of women's health clinics and state laws, along with other roadblocks. From WJBD in South Central Illinois, on a happier note, 165 seniors graduate from Salem Community High School in, I'm assuming, Salem, Illinois. And the school of this size is actually bigger than when I graduated high school. You think 165 isn't very big, but I graduated from an even smaller school. From Vice News, a look at the recently banned Chinese telecom giant Huawei. From WKBW in Buffalo, New York, a tariff removal could mean bringing jobs back to Western New York, says a Canadian CEO. On Monday, it's kind of hard to see what really happened with the whole James Charles saga. Maybe an apology. Maybe, I don't know. It's confused me. I've never watched his channel, Jeffree Star or Tati Westbrook, so I know nothing about their stuff. Honestly, it's just all drama. If I am fully wrong on it, I apologize. If not, I ain't worrying about it. From Philip DeFranco, Robert Smith taking care of all student loan debts for the 2019 graduating class of Moorhead College. On Secular Talk, Justin Amash is the first Republican to call for impeachment, but Kyle doesn't see many, if any more, Republicans doing the same. On Status Coup, the New York Times tries to use McCarthy tactics to smear Bernie Sanders. The Rational National, David Doe looks at the case of an international student in Ontario, Canada, being deported because he literally worked too many hours. From Vice News, a look at an Alabama women's clinic performing abortions after the passage of the new anti-abortion law. From Democracy Now!, a look at the FDA taking it easy on generic drug makers following inspections that expose quality and safety concerns. From the MCSC network, Nico House talks about how Shaun King and Simone Sanders did get into it on Twitter over the 1994 Biden crime bill. And from C-SPAN, a bill to raise the purchasing age of tobacco products in the U.S. is unveiled. On Tuesday, Secular Talk, Bernie Sanders proposes an education plan to ban for-profit charter schools, to raise teacher pay, and to provide universal school meals. From the Humanist Report, Mike talks about a New York Times writer who cheers Joe Biden for trashing millennials. From the Rational National, David Doe reviews a C-SPAN caller that just really gave it to Sebastian Gorka. From Vice News, they have a talk about the redefinition of the kilogram. From Frontline PBS, they have a number of interviews regarding the Supreme Court. From Democracy Now!, we see a piece on how Trump's immigration policy has led to numerous child deaths. From the MCSC network, Bernie's numbers go up as Biden's initial announcement bump continues to sink. And from The Intercept, a look at Trump's war on whistleblowers and why we should worry. On Wednesday, Philip DeFranco. Phil goes after a story in which parents are giving their children bleach to consume so that it purifies them of disease and other ills. Secular Talk. Kyle Kulinski talks about a televangelist, Jim Bakker, selling a $45 coin in support of Trump. From the Rational National, workers invited Bernie Sanders to crash a Walmart meeting. From Tim Black TV, Tim talks about Ben Carson not understanding the difference between REO, real estate owned, and Oreo, a cookie. And on Democracy Now!, an interview with Representative Al Green has him explaining why Trump should be impeached for fear of dictatorship. From Thursday, on Secular Talk, Kyle talks about how Trump had a temper tantrum during the infrastructure talks, which infrastructure should have been the first thing we went after. But no, the orange snowflake wanted to go after health care. Also on Secular Talk, Beto O'Rourke says we don't have time for Medicare for all. You know what? I agree. Single payer. Just like Canada, or the UK, or Scandinavia. Because these insurance companies don't give a damn about the people. From Status Quo, the Daily Beast runs a hit piece on Tulsi Gabbard. From the Humanist Report, Mike breaks news that the Trump administration indicts Julian Assange under the Espionage Act. From Democracy Now!, deadly protests erupt in Indonesia as U.S. trained generals there are now attacking democracy. From the MCSC, Nico House looks at the U.S.-British response after another alleged chemical attack in Syria. And from Vox, A look at how climate change has exacerbated allergy season effects. And from Friday, status quo after the NYPD choked Eric Garner to death. One cop supposedly stated that it was no big deal. On the Humanist Report, Ajit Pai greenlights the merger between Sprint and T-Mobile, essentially meaning there will be Verizon, AT&T, and whatever the merger between Sprint T-Mobile is, as the competition for cellular here in the U.S. He is horrible. Ajit Pai is. He really is. On C-SPAN, British Prime Minister Theresa May gives her resignation statement that she will resign on June the 7th, I believe she said. And also from Vox, a story on Fox News and how it infected the rest of the media. And that's our look at the news of the week. This has been a long video. But we got it done. And if you have stayed to watch all of it, thank you. But as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, and learn. And I'll see you all again in the next video. But until then, later.